My guest today is Altea Lucrezia. She is a multidimensional channel. She does light language, which I find so fascinating and I really want to learn more about. And we may even get a treat of a light language transmission at the end of today's show, which would be really cool. And she's a galactic contactee, Reiki practitioner, Kundalini yoga teacher, tarot and divination astrologer. She is just so amazing. Altea, welcome to the Stars Align. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. So we just met for the first time at Conscious Life Expo this year in Los Angeles. You're impossible to miss because of the bright, glowing red hair, right? And then come to find out, of course, you're an Aries, right? So that all now makes a lot of sense. And I just love that your background is so much red as well. Has red always kind of been your color?
My hair has been like this in many lifetimes. So from when I was maybe like 9 or 10 years old, like my mom still to this day is like, it was so weird. You like always wanted to have red hair. Like so much so that this type of dye that I'm using now only got invented when I was like in my like early 20s or something like that. So at the time I couldn't really get the color that I wanted, but it's definitely been like this for very long.
And what about like in the world? Do you gravitate towards that color red at all?
Not necessarily. No, I wouldn't say that necessarily red is my favorite color. I do find that my hair really helps me with grounding just because I work in these high vibrational frequency spaces a lot of the time. And so I need to actually ground a lot more than what your average standard human being would have to ground. So
Yeah, and I can really relate to that because throughout, since my awakening began 15 years ago, that's been my entire journey where my upper chakras, the throat and the third eye and the crown are always super duper open and my heart is super open. But the lower chakras for me are always where I need the work, especially the root. And I think a lot of people watching this, I'm sure, can resonate with that.
yeah, for sure, definitely.
Do
It's
you find that
definitely
to be the case amongst like light workers, star seeds in general, that it's the lower chakras that really need the most attention?
Yeah, I mean, generally I find with a lot of my clients, it's very interesting because they come to me and they're like, oh my God, my third eye's closed. I can't see. I want to be able to see stuff. And actually, it's not. Most of the time, people's chakras are open. They're just not grounding and they're not present and embodied in the lower chakras. And because the energy flows as a toroidal field, so from the bottom up, they're not getting access through the higher chakras because the energy isn't getting there because there's blockages in the lower chakras. So what a lot of people need to like navigate and work through is the core abandonment wound from source, which obviously affects the root chakra. So I think once that has been kind of like worked through within the system, then everything else, you can work your way up. There's definitely a lot of different things, but I would say that the lower chakras and the embodiment and the being present is definitely a big one within the community.
What do you mean by the core wound from source, or separation wound from source?
So when you split from source, you split from, universal consciousness and you become, a single, well, not a single, but an individualized piece of source, which is your soul. And that is the core abandonment wound that creates. So it's the first trauma, the first wound, the first separation that is created within the soul. And a lot of people, are working through that and to be able to integrate that and be consciously aware and neutralize that.
And then we repeat that, right, when we're born out of our mother's vagina into into a cold hospital room, right? And the umbilical cord is cut.
Yeah, I would say that that would also be, some level of separation because you are part of another being. You're part of, your mom, and then you come out, and all of a sudden you like not part of it anymore. So this is why it's so important to, be consciously aware when, giving birth in the situation and things like that.
And you have a kid, right?
I do, yes.
How old's your kid?
She's almost 4.
Aw, that's wonderful. Did you have a more of a conscious birthing experience than maybe the average mother?
Well, I had a C-section.
Oh,
So
I was a C-section baby too, myself, actually.
not very spiritual, but just for a series of circumstances. And I was
Of
actually
course, yeah,
told,
yeah, of course.
I was told later from my guides that I mean, mine was chosen. From the beginning, I was told, and I felt like this needs to be a C-section. And I was actually told that because of the specific type of codes that she would have received when she would have come out of the womb, they would have actually been too intense for her, and it would have been counterproductive to her evolution as she was growing up. So this way, she came out from the C-section. She's going to learn and apprehend these codes in a way that is more organic, if it makes sense. So that was what I.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just from like being a C-section baby myself, like I a you two as well, really? Really interesting. It's a different journey. It's a different journey because it's a different form and a more arguably kind of traumatic or just like form of being separated, right? And it does, I think it creates a special relationship with the mother that you then navigate throughout your life, where it's like this independence versus reliance. At least that's been my experience with my own mother. Very Aries Libra.
My mom's also Libra.
Really? Really? My mom's
Yeah,
not
but
my mom's a Pisces, but like for me I'm an Aries North node. And for me, so much of my journey has been about, because I'm an only child and I was a C-section. My mother's my best friend, my closest connection. She's everything to me. But I think at times in my life I've been over relying on her and and then like having to get away, be my own man and be independent, which is very much like this Aries Libra sort of journey, from an astrological standpoint.
I'm also an only child, but it was, yeah, I guess it was different for me because I was born after my parents had gone through trauma. They actually lost a child before me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she came into this world and then she died when she was around 9 months. And then they had me after. So I was a very like praised baby. Like I could have really done anything and everyone was, always happy sort of thing. So I still got like, good education and things like that. And my parents were still strict where they were supposed to. But with regards to codependency, I mean, I'm very close to my mom. We get along really well. Still to this day, like she's very involved in, growing up my child and things like that.
Oh, I
But
love that. I love that. I love that.
yeah, but I wouldn't say that there's any like negative codependence per se, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean, but we are very close. But I have seen within my own healing and within my own karmic clearing and ancestral clearing that I've had to do some work on her as well. So
Yeah.
I was able to release quite a lot of programming before my child came into this reality. And after that, I was able to help her release quite a lot of hers as well. So it's been a mutually beneficial relationship.
Do you feel like throughout your awakening journey, you've released a lot of karmic codes carried from, past generations? Because I felt like that for sure. Like I'm so different in almost every way than my ancestors on both sides. And I just know that I'm evolving both lineages, in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think our generation, this is careful. We're here to show, we're here to bring the light, and we're here to kind of like take that step forward and do the work in whatever way is more aligned for us as individual beings. And then, yeah, I guess lead by example, but definitely I fully agree with that.
So, are you a starseed?
I am, yes.
Okay, me too. Now, do you know like where you're from specifically?
Yeah, I've had many different cycles. I see it in Pleiades, but I've lived in Vega, I've lived in Orion, I was there in some of the Orion Wars. I've also had lifetimes in Lemuria and Atlantis. I've lived on Venus, I've lived on Mars. So what I do as
Now the red makes even more sense.
my journey as a soul is usually like I'll do maybe like 1,000 years on Earth, then go off for like 500 years, learn from civilizations, then come back on Earth, do maybe another like 400 years here, then go off for another 1,000 years. So that's kind of like how my soul has been evolving. And I've come here many times, but I've also been away for quite a while.
Now that's really interesting. I've never before you heard anyone claim that, and I believe it. It's just different. I'm a very logical, scientific person, as you might know. Um, how would you say that works? Because every time you're coming back to Earth, you're having to really lower your frequency to match with the low frequency of Earth. And then when you're going off to Venus or back to the Pleiades or whatever, it's back to a high frequency. How does that work to oscillate back and forth like that?
Well, my soul frequency doesn't really get affected. Like it's just the 3D body that you would
But you
say.
have to be able to fit into an Earth body, which is a much lower frequency.
Not really, because you exist on a multidimensional level. So yes, I would be present here, but the experience that my soul has carried is still what it was before. I don't remember all of it. So, and I also don't think that we can achieve complete soul fragment retrieval within this existence because of what you say, because of the limits
Right,
of
of
the.
course. My good friend Todd Devine, the author of Expansion for Ascending Consciousness, he likes to say, and I love this, like if you were able to bring in all of your soul's essence, you would live like a god. You would walk as a god amongst men, being able to lift up cars and teleport and disappear, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I don't think we can do complete soul fragment retrieval within, the human existence here at this moment in time, but it doesn't mean that I still can't access other parts of my multidimensional self while I am embodied and present here.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like that myself. Where, like, especially my trans channeling connection, for example, with the Syrians, which I enjoy thoroughly, and my audience loves it as well. But every time I do it, I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm on Sirius, to a certain extent, even though I'm in this chair. And I love that. Orion, you mentioned Orion. I know I was also in Orion's belt during the Orion Wars, as like have so many light workers that are now in the awakening times. And I've always felt like there's this resonance between that experience of the Orion Wars and then being in the end of the Lemurian Atlantean period, and then again now, because we're at a similar crossroads, we could say, with greed and hypercapitalism, the Illuminati like taking over to such an extreme extent where there's extreme poverty, etc. So have you seen that as well, where there's like a ton of Orion starseeds now?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot well, I'm seeing a lot of people that've come through that were there when Atlantis fell more than once.
Yeah,
So what I'm seeing, and the way kind of like how I understand it, is that we're here to shift the narrative and to clear the karma on a
yeah,
planetary level, individual level, on a collective level, and on a galactic level. So definitely, for sure, like we here to access the technology and use it in a way that is productive
yeah.
and helpful in evolution. So it's interesting because a lot of the time, people come to me and they're like, oh, I want to go live in the middle of nowhere and not see anyone and not be with anyone and not speak to anyone. And like, you can do that, but you're not assisting in the evolution of the species if you're doing that. You're just holding the frequency to what it is, and that's fine. Some people, are here just to do that, but our goal is to move forward and evolve in a way that is safe, supported, consciously aware, compassionate, with the AI, with the technology, with all these magnificent things that we are able to access now, like things like the med beds, this technology that's coming in. Even all the stuff that was there at the Conscious Life Expo, like my mind was so blown by the level of
Yeah.
technology that actually have access it now. So I think a lot of us are clearing our own karma, and also, on a planetary and collective level through these experiences at this moment in time.
Yeah, amazing. And the way I see it is like, okay, Atlantis and Lemuria were so diametrically opposed in the way that they went. Atlantis was so highly technological and AI was very much a part of it. Lemuria was more pagan, working with the elements, with the earth and the animals, right? And there's negative karma left over from both, right? There's more of the victim consciousness from Lemuria, and there's more of this attacking, narcissistic, greedy consciousness from Atlantis. And in order to truly experience the full planetary ascension, all karma has to be transmuted, including collective karmas. So we're having to transmute the collective karmas of both. And really, over the next century, I see a synthesis of New Atlantis and New Lemuria. So that's why I think, like you said, a lot of people are feeling called to move out into the countryside and create communities. And I love that. And there's so many popping up, especially in Costa Rica and Ecuador, in Mexico, and that's New Lemuria. Those communities are New Lemuria. New Atlantis is here. It's in New York. It's in London. It's in Berlin. It's in Johannesburg. The cities of the world are New Atlantis, right? And so some of us are choosing, like, I don't know, I'm kind of in the middle. I live like in the countryside, but 20 minutes from the city. So, like, some of us are choosing to have that integration experience in New Atlantis and some of us in New Lemuria. What do you think about that perspective?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to see it. It makes sense and it feels very aligned to see it in that way. And yeah, exactly as you said, it's interesting that you mentioned Costa Rica because I'm running a Costa Rica retreat in November. It's interesting because when last year I was going to choose a place, they said to me, go to Costa Rica. And the reason they told me to go there is because right now there's actually a huge portal that's been there for a year or two, and it's going to be there for a while, where when you go and do energy work there, you can heal timelines instantly. It's a lot quicker. You can heal a lot quicker and you can jump into high vibrational frequency
Why?
timeline.
Why there?
I think because of the grid of the land and whatever the land, I don't know. I'll tell you when I go there.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Tell me next year, conscious life.
Yeah, but it's interesting because there's a lot of these places that are popping up, around the world, and a lot of spiritual places and a lot of, grids that have been activated as well, so that people can recollect and they can remember and they can, neutralize the timelines, as you were saying, so that we can, move forward in a positive way altogether.
So you're pretty international, and I'm excited if you'll let us to later look at your chart to see what sort of ninth house or Sagittarius aspects you got going on or something, because you're Italian, you speak perfect English, like perfect, literally perfect English, and you live in South Africa. So how did you end up in South Africa and why?
So I was born and raised in Milano in Italy. So my first language is Italian, but I went to the British school in Milan.
Okay.
So yeah, I learned both at the same time, Italian and English.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
That's why I don't really have an accent, because
Yeah,
most
you
of
don't. So do your parents also, are they bilingual with English?
well, I mean, they learned English when they were a little bit older, but they fluent, but they have an Italian accent.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And then what brought you to South Africa? That's just so
So, yeah,
different.
I've been here for about 14 or 15 years now, 14 years. The grid. I was then told after that there was grid work that I needed to do here, specifically in the place where I am now, which is literally in the middle of nowhere. It's like a 4 hour
Mm.
drive from Johannesburg. And I was relocated here. I did some work in Cape Town, and then there's no one, as far as I know, that is holding grid or doing work at the level that I am doing it within the country right now. And I've been doing this work now for a few years on a planetary level. But yeah, it's basically it's just basically a frequency thing. Like, I was supposed to hold an anchor frequency in a specific place here, and the whole life of my parents was orchestrated around that as well, and around me being here and present here in the specific geographical area when the pandemic happened. And that I was
Okay.
told, and oh, you need to be here and do this and do that, and that's when everything started growing exponentially for me.
Interesting. Do you think you've had a past life or past lives in South Africa?
Sure, yeah, for sure.
Do you remember at all, like, what those were like?
So it's interesting that you say that, because I have memories of the nature, but my contract here is with the land and not with the people. So it's very interesting because I have like maybe two South African clients out of all my thousands of people that I see. There's literally like maybe two or three people that are from here. Um, but there's definitely, I mean, I've definitely lived as a mermaid here on some of the ocean areas. So I know I cleared a timeline of me being massacred on a beach in Mozambique, which is just on the border on top. I was sent there in 2022 to do a grid clearing of the beach there, which was quite interesting. So there's definitely been some lives and experiences that I've had here. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think you'll be in South Africa the rest of your life or no?
So yes and no. I've been shown, yeah, I can't really say too much, but I have been shown like a few different timelines. I definitely want to be here at least 6 months of the year. So let's put it that way. But yeah, I feel like I like it here. It's beautiful. The nature is really untouched. But also like I do know that because of my grid work and because of my work, like I have to be in the States a lot as well. So yeah, we'll see moving forward. But for sure, like I want my base and my roots to be mostly this side. Yeah.
Are there specific areas in the United States that you feel especially called to?
Yeah, so LA for sure. Like I was in LA now, and that's like where I'm gonna be quite a
Yeah,
lot.
me
New
too. Me
York.
too. By the way, there's a part of my soul like calling me from New York to LA potentially.
Well, it's interesting because when I was there, I did LA and New York, and I really felt like a very different density of the grid. Are you in Manhattan or are you
No,
outside of Manhattan?
I'm from Long Island originally, but I'm upstate, so nowhere close. It's literally 6 hours by car
Oh,
away. Yeah,
because like when I anchored into the Manhattan grid, I was like, yo, how do people live here? I was like, no, 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 no. And it's been a big.
I could never live in Manhattan. I have a lot of friends that live there. I lived in Brooklyn at one point. My father was from Brooklyn. I love New York City with all my heart. I just don't want to live there. It's too
So I lived in
dense.
New York when I was in my early 20s for about 6 months. I think it was 2011 or 2012. But I wasn't as consciously aware as I am now of the energetics. So like I was like, oh, great, fun, whatnot. This time I was like, no, like it's too dense. Like I found it too dense. So but I know that there is work there for me, and also like very interesting to see the different type of energy work that I did in LA compared to what I did in New York as well. So I think that's there for now. There's definitely a lot of places in the States. I'm going to do a workshop probably in Miami as well. So there's a lot of places that I'm being called to go. So, but we'll take it, one trip at a time.
Do you think you've had past lives in the United States?
Yeah, for sure I've had there. Yeah, for
Do you
sure.
think you had any like past lives as an indigenous person in the U.S.?
I've actually seen a few, yeah, as Navajo tribe.
Yeah,
So
because I can see that for you
yeah,
that you have.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't told in detail. I know I did some shape shifting. I know I was really connected to owls, and to like birds and eagles and things like that. But I haven't explored it fully. But I've had like so many. I've seen like so that it's difficult also for me. It's funny because even when I do sessions, like I tell people, like I'm very visual, so I'll get the visual, and then I'm like, I'm not a historian, so I don't know like the time. I can't say where, but I can say, this is what I saw. This is kind of like what it looked like. So it's quite interesting. But for sure, yeah, definitely a lot on the land there for me to still explore.
Amazing. Yeah. I do, a lot of past life stuff. I do, readings where I'm telling people past lives, also past life regressions. And I actually love to like during it or after I'm frantically typing, I'm Googling like, okay, what happened here? What happened here? And there's been some cool instances where with clients we've actually found the specific person they were. It's happened about a dozen times and it's pretty cool. Like my one client, he won a bunch of medals. He was in the US Army and he won a bunch of medals when he was in Germany. And for whatever reason, Germany was just like this really auspicious place for him. And during the regression, he saw, he was a king. And we were able to look up because we could figure out the specific time period. He saw exactly what happened. And we found the exact king. It was in like the 9th century AD. And that was one of the cooler ones that I ever found.
Hey, going so far back.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I that's my Virgo moon. I love trying to nail down specifics and evidence, and that's my left brain side. You know what I really like about you, like speaking of New York, I follow your Instagram, and I just remember because it was right after Conscious Life Expo earlier this year, and you look like you're having a great time in New York City. And I just love that it seems like you're a real person. And I feel like that too. And people tell me that all the time that the reason they're drawn to my stuff is because I just seem like a real guy, like an everyday guy. I'm not up here on some pedestal claiming to be, some sort of deity. I'm like a real person. And I just feel that with you as well. You seem very real. You seem very down to earth. You seem like you're able to have a good time. You seem like you really honor the human side of this whole experience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really important. And that's also what I always say, even to my clients. I'm like, guys, like we are all constantly learning from each other. So I really like staying humble, staying grateful, and really appreciating every moment is like the secret to like being happy. You know what I mean? And then things just align and they happen and you're grateful for them, but not having any attachment. Like today you're here, tomorrow you're somewhere else, and just allowing for things to flow. And also for me, because I with the line of work, as you know, that we are in, it's really important. Like I can't lie. Like it doesn't matter, what it is or what happens or whatnot. Like I really always have to consistently be in my truth,
Yeah.
even if sometimes it can be, hard because you're telling people stuff and they have a reaction, but that you cannot control that. You can only control your own thoughts, actions, emotions and words, not other people's. So I think that definitely comes through when you are exposing yourself on a public platform. Like, I mean, why would you not want to be yourself? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And like the only people that I really trust out there are I have a lot of trust issues being a Scorpio sun, conjunct Pluto, Mercury and Scorpio. I'm like Scorpio to the core. So, and you're Scorpio moon, so I know you understand this, right? So the people I trust in the new age circles are people I've met and know in person, like you, or just at least if I'm looking at their content, they seem like a real person. That I like to see people that seem real, and you seem very real. I just wanted to mention that.
I appreciate that.
And I don't have people on my show that I don't think are real. Anyone I think is full of shit, they're not on here. So just being on the show. You mentioned that I'll tell you, you mentioned this word grid work a lot, and I have my own concept of it. People watching have their own concept of grid work, but I want you to tell my audience, what is grid work to you?
So it really depends. Like it would be limiting for me to say it's one thing. So let's say when I hold a workshop in a specific place, what happens with me is I'll open my channel and then I will pull in light and I will have light go through me and anchor through my system, anchor into the grid of the earth, anchor into the beings and the people that have come, to do the energy work. So that is one type of grid work that I do. I will go in specific places and then I'll literally just get guided to do whatever it needs to be done. But generally it will be kind of like the same system. I open up, and again, like it's just for simplicity that I say my channel, but whenever you are channeling information or beings, the channel operates on a multidimensional level. So the way I'll be channeling maybe today is different from how I'll be channeling if I'm doing grid work, from how I'll be channeling if I'm working on an individual client. You know what I mean? So yeah, and then sometimes it'll just be kind of like words that come through. Sometimes it'll be with the intention, sometimes it'll be specific symbols, sometimes I actually write things on the earth. So it really depends. And through that, you're infusing the codes, the sacred geometry within Gaia, and you're activating dormant DNA and templates for people to receive, raising the frequency of the planet. And again, also when I'm channeling, like sometimes the geometry will actually come out and anchor within the earth's grid. So yeah, so I mean, sometimes it's as easy as touching a tree and imagining it with light, and sometimes it can be as complex as speaking at a conference with like 1,000 people.
I like that because you're right. It's not one thing and there's not one method. There's really infinite ways to do grid work, right? So for me, like, I don't know, I was at the beach a couple days ago and I just, wanted to give back. And so I see the whole all of Lake Ontario just, in this violet cleansing light and just putting the intention for toxins to be transmuted, right? I do a lot of that sort of work with the land. I love doing work with visualization with groups of like actually seeing the ley lines of the earth and infusing with light. But also, you're right, like when we gather at conferences like the Conscious Life Expo, which I just adore, like we're all bringing in these really high frequencies as the teachers and as everyone attending, and we're amplifying it by 10,000 fold, or more, right? And that's grid work too. You're right.
Yeah.
So you speak light language, I believe, yes?
I do, yes.
Okay, what is light language?
So light language is basically an expression of the soul. It cannot be translated which word by word. It can be expressed in movement, speaking, dancing, writing. I mean, it can really be expressed in, a whole bunch of different.
So it's not just verbal?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not just. The term light language, it's just because for convenience's sake, it was a human made term, but it's really an energetic.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's an energetic imprint. It's a reverberation of energy that gets put out that operates in very high vibrational frequencies. And light language works beyond the concepts of space and time. So let's say I channel some codes now, you need to receive them, but right now your system is doing something else, you're going to receive them tomorrow. Or you might have already received them yesterday, even if I'm channeling them today within an
Really?
hour. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's okay. I got to think about that. But it makes sense if everything, if we take the quantum perspective of things, right?
Always on a quantum level.
Do you think Reiki can sometimes work in a similar way?
Well, I'm classically Reiki trained, so my
Me too.
training.
Me too. I'm a classic Usui Reiki master myself. Yeah.
Exactly. So, my training from the beginning is, I think Reiki definitely works on a universal level. I do think it works similarly. I think for me, the way I see it, light language is almost like an evolvement of the Reiki, in a way. But Reiki is a beautiful tool. I can only speak really highly of it. It works beyond the concept of
Same.
space and time.
Yeah.
And it gives a really good basis in training and in understanding, like the symbols of Reiki really assist and whatnot. So yeah, I would say that it's quite similar. And again, for me, like very close to my heart, like the Reiki is beautiful.
Yeah, I Reiki was one of the it actually Reiki is the only thing I was like traditionally trained on. Literally the only thing. Everything else that I offer the world was completely just downloaded through my own consciousness from my higher self, from my guides, from my starseed self, whatever, right? Are you similar? Have you downloaded a lot of stuff yourself?
Yes. So again, same as you, my Reiki training was the only thing that I did. I did also a hypnosis training last year. So I'm qualified in hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, magnetism, and mesmerization, which is not really something that I offer, but it is something that I do. I'm also trained in multi yoga, Kundalini yoga. I was in Rishikesh in India.
Oh, cool.
I
Yeah.
did that as well. Yeah, so I incorporate that a little bit in my sessions and in my training programs. But most of my work is, well, I mean, I feel like I'm divinely guided in everything that I do every single day from when I
Yeah,
wake up.
same.
You know what I mean? So, but yes, my programs and what I offer, I would say that it's channeled. Like everything that I do is channeled. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. That's amazing. Now, the light language, when it does come through verbally, right? It sounds really odd to a layperson, and even to me sometimes. I think it sounds a bit silly. Not you, but just like anyone. Like the sounds themselves are, you feel the high frequency, but the sounds are odd. Like it's not. Sometimes it sounds like some sort of Earth language, like a Slavic language, or I don't know, or Gaelic, and then sometimes it just sounds like I don't know, like some sort of gibberish. But I guess, and I know this is a real left brain question, but this is who I am, and I love trying to figure everything out and the left brain side of things. Like, why does it end up sounding the way it does?
So it's interesting because my talk at the Conscious Life Expo was actually about different phonetics of the light.
Really? Oh my God. Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
So
so cool.
there are some more earth-based, energetically infused light languages. So every light language will have and some energetic imprinting to it. So let's say sometimes like the weird clicky sounds and things like that, that can be technology. You can have light language, which is more like almost like insectoid and mantis. You can have people singing light language, which would be more your angelics. And then you can have light language, as you said, that sounds like an Eastern European language or something like that. So it really depends. So like for me, Yeah, for me, again, also it depends. Sometimes when I'm kind of like clearing entities and removing cords and things like that, it's going to be like almost like more stern. And sometimes it gets like a little bit louder as well. Then sometimes it'll be like more softer and motherly and nurturing. So again, it depends also on the frequency of the person that is channeling it. But generally, you know, when you're channeling at certain levels, you'll have a mixture of different frequencies infused within your own light language, because we are all a mixture of different beings and DNAs that comes, you know, from all these different galactic beings and from these earth lifetime experiences. So based on that, then it's your own unique energetic imprinting of your soul.
Do you think that they use light language on other planets?
They do, but not in the way that we would expect them
Not
to.
verbally, right? Because that's what I found in my travels, like astrally everywhere. It's not verbal, it's telepathic.
Or symbols. They'll
Yes,
like
yes, or yes, correct. Yeah.
they'll infuse like symbols or like signs or like, you know, shiny little stars, whatever, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
A lot of times in my starseed discovery regression sessions, like people, you know, were there, they're in some sort of temple in the Pleiades or Sirius or Vega or wherever, and their friends there want to give them an activation, and it'll be like you know, a triangle in a circle, or it will be a spinning sphere of a certain color, symbols, right? That end up being visual.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I've seen it as well. Or often through the third eye too. So they will go like from one third eye to the other,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah,
they'll
yeah.
that's how I've seen it as well. Yeah.
Now, some people I've seen out there like draw symbols that they say are language. Do you draw symbols too?
I don't know if you can see.
So is that your artwork?
Oh yeah, that's all my artwork. And
Wow, that's
yeah, you
incredible.
just
Those are all symbols like within. Whoa, that's so cool. Oh my God, that's so cool. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I love that.
yeah, so
Oh,
it's all hand drawn. I do some digital codes as well. That's actually how I started. Even before the speaking, I started. I mean, I've been channeling written codes since 2016, 2017. So it's been quite long. Like when I first started using the modality of light language, there were maybe like 20 channelers online. Now there's thousands of them,
yeah.
you know. So it's quite interesting. But yes, so my writing like that, most of it is Atlantean technology. So a lot of technology would come through. So I would draw like whole like underground water systems of Atlantis, or
Whoa.
like or like portals. Like it would. I mean, I'd still do it now, not as much, just because I don't have the time to draw as much as I would like to. But yeah, and then so when I was in ancient Atlantis, one of the main roles that I had was I basically worked in this big room which had two like wormholes slash portals, and
Okay.
I would like ships of fleets from one to the other, or planets. Sometimes I would move like whole like solar systems and things like that. So a lot of the work that I
Whoa.
did there went beyond space and time. So I draw a lot of these like wormhole portals where they have like refuel stations for ships, or like, you know, like, you know, energy coming from the one side and then transmuting and then moving differently into another side, and things like that. I mean, they're all on my Instagram. You need to scroll down a little bit, but if you go on my Instagram, and then what I do is I offer also, if people want a specific drawing attuned to their frequency, I can also do that for
Oh
them.
wow. Amazing. Oh my God. Um, I have so many questions. Okay, Atlantis, as far as I understand, and Edgar Casey understood, was kind of fucked up in a lot of ways, to be quite blunt, right? There was this control and power and greed mechanism, like an Illuminati type organization. But you were doing some pretty powerful shit in Atlantis. Were you working only for the light, do you think, or do you think you played with both sides? Yeah.
Like most of us.
And how did that affect then your karmic path, would you say, after that, and how do you then rebalance that?
So when I downloaded my first ever memory of Atlantis, I think I cried for about 3 hours.
Oh wow,
And
yeah.
I remember this clear as day. I was pregnant. It was 2019. And I sat down, and if you go on my Instagram back then, I think I reposted maybe a year or two later, you can see it. It's a drawing of these huge volcanoes erupting and these huge machines, like they look like spiders, but like big machines, like
Oh my
square,
God. Yeah, they were those were definitely in Atlantis. Yeah, yeah.
and like people running around and people on the floor and the volcanoes exploding and all the dark in the sky, and then these spaceships on top flying around as well. And anyway, so I felt that when I downloaded that, through the crying and the heart and the opening, I cleared quite a lot.
Yeah.
uh, so that was my first encounter, and it was almost like that wasn't shown gently. I was like shoved my face bang in it, like this is what happened, like
Yeah.
deal with it, you know. And then the my more kind of like high vibrational frequency experiences, working also with crystals and healings, and this time, these portals of time that I mentioned earlier, that came after.
And I think that like at least for me, because I know I played some dark characters in other lives on Earth. Not in I was not in Atlantis, but you know, just like running a cult in another life and kind of taking advantage of my power. And I'm so like careful walking on eggshells in this life to make sure I don't step on, you know, other people's boundaries, that I don't take advantage of my power in any way because of that, and that I only work for the light. But yet, I've always had an inherent understanding of the dark. I know what black magic is. I know how to help people clear black magic because I did it in another life. I was like a dark witch in some life. Do you resonate with that? With like kind of intuitively understanding the dark, but yet really committed to the light?
Yeah. I mean, I had to deal with African Black witch doctors. So in this life,
Okay,
so,
yeah, and I came across a lot of black magicians in this life. Yeah,
and I mean, here, this is Africa, like this, the land speaks, you know. So I faced a lot of that within this lifetime, which is quite interesting.
yeah,
Um, and I've also come to the understanding that, you know, these things have as much power as you give them, because we are infinite beings of light.
true.
So
Yeah,
if you
true.
if you
That's my
choose.
number one recommendation always for people with black magic issues. Stop fighting it. Stop. What happens is people get in these psychic battles and it just grows it exponent. It just like snowballs. And the first thing is to remove your attention and energy from it and focus and go somewhere else. That's the most important part.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's very rare cases when there's karmic contracts, and
Yeah,
even in that
yeah.
case, you send it love and send it healing, and you know, and then you're able to neutralize it. So I think, you know, for us being energy workers, it's really important to be have knowledge and be consciously aware of these things. But again, like, you know, where you choose to put your attention, that's where your life is going to go. You know what I mean? Like I get a lot of people who come to me, oh, I've got black magic, a curse, and this, and I just say to them, do I send them something called the Declaration of Sovereignty? I say, do that. Understand that these things have as much power as you give them. And actually, a lot of the time, I say no to them because it's like, this is your journey. Like, you can't rely on me. Sometimes they tell me from higher, no, assist them and clear it. So then I'll do it. But most of the time, I just redirect them to their self power and their self love and their self trust. And, you know, without invalidating their experience and saying, like, it's real, I acknowledge that it's real and I understand. And I've been there. Like, I've been there myself. So I know how real these things can be and how scary they can be. But you know, you are more powerful than all of that. So with me, with previous lifetimes, for me, it's more of a thing where I was prosecuted in a lot of lifetimes because of my powers. Like I was burned at the stake. I was, you know, in the witch trials and all of that. So that's kind of like more where my awareness goes to, or went to, like not so much now anymore, because I feel like, yeah, I don't need to, but um kind of like in the beginning.
Can I pause you for a second? I have a question. You meant the witch trials. Are you talking about Salem, Massachusetts, or are you talking about in Europe?
Well, I think it was probably Salem. I think that's
Because
probably where.
I went to Salem a couple years ago. I have a video on my channel. It's a fascinating place, and if you have an inclination, you know, you maybe should go check it out, right? Um,
So I've been told that I need to go to New Orleans as well.
Nolans.
Without,
Nolans. I
yeah.
love Nolans. You go into the shops there and they sell all sorts of voodoo stuff just openly. Like, voodoo dolls and all sorts of voodoo oils, and voodoo is not inherently evil at all. Voodoo is similar to hoodoo, similar to Santeria. It's neutral. It can be used for light or dark. So I have no problem with voodoo, but you absolutely should go to New Orleans. You should go into the shops, and it's just so cool to, yeah, maybe you were there as well, right? But Salem, there were only there was a small number. I think it was 14 witches. People misunderstand and think Salem was like thousands of witches. No, it was 14, I believe. That's
But
it.
I was burnt at the stake more than once. So it was
Yeah, what I'm saying is like the Salem thing gets blown up a bit because people misunderstand it. If you read about the history of it in Europe, it was way more prevalent in Europe than it was in the United States.
I mean also the what's it called? The Spanish Inquisition. Like
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
and also how about St. Patrick, who we celebrate blindly every March 17th, going around with his army murdering druids. Like I was a druid and I can't stand St. Patrick. On March 17th, I always make sure to post "fuck you, St. Patrick" or "fuck St. Patrick." Happy Irish Heritage Day because I am Irish, but
There you go. Yeah. Nice
yeah.
way of seeing.
um, Altea, where do you see the planet going? This is a really precarious year. I think we're already in World War III. I think it's only going to get worse. Where do you see this decade taking us, and more importantly, beyond? Like, how long does this ascension process take, and what does it look like?
Well, I mean, ascension is already happening on an individual level. So I mean, I do see for sure a technological revolution, which is what we're in the middle of right now
Pluto and
already.
Aquarius. Yep.
Some kind of financial reformation. So the finances being redistributed in a
How
way that
so?
is like, well, redistribution, financial redistribution. So,
But and I'm so curious, like people's perspectives on what that would actually look like. Would it be the U.S. government, for example? Okay, every citizen gets $100,000, or how
no,
does that actually happen?
more everyone like abundance. Also, everyone has water, everyone has electricity, everyone has some type of access to food and shelter and heating and clothes, kind of like in
That
that
would be
way.
great. Yeah.
That's how I would see it, Um, for sure. I mean, listen, Mother Guy is clearing her own karma. So for sure, like there might be still like, earthquakes and tornadoes and things like that. But for me, like I know there's a lot of people talking about solar flashes and power cuts and things like that. I really don't choose to put any energy into that. Like I have the awareness of it, but I
People have
think
been saying that for 30 years. Nothing ever
yeah.
happens. Nothing. It's BS, in my
And
opinion.
wield a collective voice. So if now everyone with a collective voice starts talking about division and tragedy, that's going to be the public opinion, and then that's going to be created. So for me, I choose to focus on the positive and on all the people that are doing the healing and are doing the energy work and are connecting, like at these beautiful events like the Conscious Life Expo, Disclosure Fest that's coming up, all these spaces where these people are assisting on that level. And with as far I mean, I'm excited for the future, honestly. Like I think life is great. I love my life. I love humans. I love
Yeah,
as
me
we
too. I'm very excited as well. I actually, as especially as an astrologer, I actually like analyzing politics, analyzing what's going on in the world, and relating it to astrology. And so, like, I can just kind of, bluntly say, yeah, there's a world war going on. Yeah, this is happening. Yeah, this is fucked up. Yeah, scandals are coming, and then relate it to what's going on in the stars. And yet at the same time, there's this, it doesn't preclude me from creating what I want to create in my own life. And it doesn't preclude us as the awakening community in creating what we want to create. And it's so important that we create what we want to create, because that's then that's the opposing force that ends up dissolving all the bullshit that is going on in the, greater outside world, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I really think we've already entered, the lower tiers of fourth dimensional, positively polarized Earth
Do you?
frequencies.
I don't think we're even close. I think we're so far away from that. I think we're
The 3D and the 4D are overlapping already. I mean,
yes, for some, but I think it's for people like you and I maybe, and people that are watching this, but we're such in the minority still. Go out into Johannesburg and just be amongst, it. And I don't mean this from like a judgmental place. It's
because
just reality, you know.
because they haven't entered as an individual, it doesn't mean that Earth itself hasn't entered. Earth has entered the human after,
I understand.
it's
And look,
that
everyone has different perspectives on this, so I will honor your perspective. I'm not so sure, but I know it's coming regardless. Even if it's whether it's here now or if it's coming, it's coming no matter what, and it's inevitable no matter what. I guess is the right
if
word.
you look at like where the starseed movement was like 3 years ago and where
Oh
it is now,
yeah. Oh my God.
amazing.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, and it's because of the internet. And that's Aquarian. And speaking of Aquarius, I think it would be so cool. Can we just take a brief look at your chart? I just want to get to know like what makes you, because you're so fascinating. Okay, so I was so interested to see like what's going on with your ninth house because you're so international. Interestingly enough, you have Saturn in your ninth house, and that shows me like finding a permanent home somewhere international, somewhere away from your place of origin, which you have. And not only that, Saturn is at home in Capricorn in your ninth house. So that ended up happening for you. You found a permanent home, as much as permanence can be for you, right, in a foreign land. Okay, so you have so many Aquarian aspects to you, right? Your north node is your north node Aquarius. It's in your midheaven. It's in your 10th house. You are meant to be a beacon of this Aquarian movement, as we just talked about transitioning through this ascension process into the age of Aquarius, but you're meant to do it publicly. You're meant to be a leader of it as it falls in your 10th house. And not only that, Mars, that Aries energy, right? And of course, that Mars is very important to you in your chart because you're an Aries sun. Mars falls in your 10th house in Aquarius, meaning you travel and move around and take action, and it's your day-to-day kind of experience in, being a beacon of that Aquarian age. Another interesting thing is you have your part of fortune in Sagittarius. Again, I was saying I was so curious to see like, okay, what sort of ninth house or Sagittarius aspects you have because you're so international, and you do have your part of fortune in Sagittarius, which part of fortune is such a cool little aspect because it's like, okay, X marks the spot. If we dig here, we're gonna have good fortune and feel actualized, right? And Sagittarius is about philosophy and travel. So the more that you move around and travel to different spots on the grid, it will actualize yourself in all areas of life. Also, it is in the seventh house, which means whenever the time is for your soul partnership, where there's someone, a divine partner that you're doing that with and you're traveling the grids with. That is, I would say, probably written into your life plan, at least based on your chart. Another interesting thing, you have Pluto conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which is okay. We were talking about the Salem witch trials. We were talking about Saint Patrick, that motherfucker murdering druids. We were talking about just witch burning and that's Black Moon Lilith. My video I was talking about, I told you I went to Salem a couple years ago. I filmed a video there specifically on Black Moon Lilith and astrology because at least here in the US, like Salem, Massachusetts is the best example of Black Moon Lilith and astrology. Black Moon Lilith is the home of all the things that society sweeps under the rug, all the ugly stuff. It's also the suppressed and the attacked and the divine feminine. It's like that really creepy mural in the Denver airport where the Illuminati guys, the Nazi guy's boot is basically on the throat of the light workers, right? And that's Black Moon Lilith, the dark patriarchy putting the boot on the neck of the feminine. you have Pluto conjunct Black Moon Lilith, and to me, like, so much of what you're meant to do in this life is to heal that violence and um, that control mechanism that suppressed the divine feminine, which is probably why your soul had you be a woman in this life. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and Pluto, again, Pluto being the source of like all things that are of the nature of, the dark, right? We were talking about black magic and Orion and, the Illuminati. Like Pluto, having Pluto conjunct Black Moon Lilith like that, you're going to encounter it, first of all, and it's in the sixth house. I can see why, astrologically speaking, you had to kind of, in a period in your life, maybe fight against black magic or psychic attacks or things like that. Being in the sixth house, that can happen. And also, it's just like an everyday experience for you in like facing the dark and being okay with it, and knowing how to heal it, knowing how to heal the darkness in people, right? You're a real I think you're probably, if you believe in the type 1, type 2, type 3 indigos, probably a type 3 like me, which is the polarity integrator, where and it's usually Orion star seeds or having some Orion experience that you're a polarity integrator, where you're having to, ride a roller coaster throughout your life of experiencing light and dark, so you fully understand light and dark in the context of all your past lives on earth. You experience very light and very dark lives on earth, and then in your ascension life you have to integrate the polarities, have to come into one, and then that's your contribution to the grid. And also being a type 1 light worker as a grid worker. Does that, have you heard of that type 1, type 2, type 3?
Oh, no, I mean, for me, I always felt like I was a rainbow and crystal child when I came through. I didn't feel like I was in the year of the indigos, but again, like, there's so many different things out there, and we can all be parts of all of them,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
This
um
definitely that definitely resonates.
Good. Yeah, yeah. And then other interesting things about your chart, you have Uranus and Neptune in the eighth house, which is like, oh boy, you are going to want to explore the depths. Like I've been saying, you're very deep. Which is, I think, why I was attracted to wanting to interview you and also just get to know you. You're very deep, and I resonate with that. That's me. I have no fear in exploring anything, and I want to learn and understand and explore everything, light and dark. And having the, Neptune in the eighth house like that, you're going to be a natural medium, you're going to be a natural channel. But also, just exploring everything that is the eighth house, which is, both light and dark. It's the Pluto house. And having Uranus in the eighth house as well, that's like, I would imagine, you had you had probably at least one pretty stark or difficult event in your life that really shifted your path, like really dramatically. That would be Uranus in the eighth house. That would be Pluto in the sixth house as well. Um, and, I think it's something that as a soul, you probably wrote in to your life plan because you wanted to really quickly get on the path in this life. So you had to have those tower type moments. And that happened to me as well, actually.
For sure, definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's a few that I can think of.
Yeah, yeah. Now you do have Jupiter in your second house, in Cancer, which shows me that you are very well aspected financially, and also that you were always meant to be a mother, and that being a mother is a very important part of what your soul wanted to write into this life plan.
Yeah, I knew from since when I was a child that I wanted children. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Amazing. Venus in the 11th house in Pisces, when the time comes that your soul brings that partnership, it'll be someone from within the New Age circles, because of that 11th house. And in Pisces, it'll be another energy worker, medium, etc. And also having your sun in Aries, but in the 12th house. Are you good with dreams, like dream interpretation?
I've been lucid dreaming
Yeah,
since I can remember. I do a lot of astral work in the dream space.
yeah.
I get to do grid work in the astral. I get sent to like clear souls. Like I'd have weeks where I have like 10 to 20 people contacting me, say, hey, you were doing work on me in the astral. So I'm very, very versed in like astral work. Yeah, it's just something that I've been doing my whole life since when I was a child. So, and
Yeah, that's that 12th house sun right there. Yeah. So how does that does all that make sense or most of it?
yeah, everything
Amazing.
resonated.
Amazing.
Everything. Yeah.
Amazing. Are you an astrology enthusiast like me?
Yeah, I do a little bit here and there. So I kind of knew, not to that depth, but I kind of knew. And yeah, I think like for me, it's quite interesting because I never really want to not know, but I don't really want to know. I just want to, live my experience and see what comes, if it makes sense. But
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way actually. I almost never let anyone do readings on me ever. That's my Scorpio self. I'm also very mysterious in a lot of ways. But
yeah,
I also don't want to know. I really don't want to know the future.
exactly. If I'm supposed to know something, my guides will send it to me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's interesting. You're the first person I've ever talked to that has the same thing as me because most people I encounter, they want to know, but that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
no,
Maybe it's your Scorpio moon. Maybe it's your Scorpio
yeah, I want to
moon.
live my life.
Oh, and also, I mean, you're Gemini ascendant, which is that's where I mean, look, Aries Sun, Scorpio. So if you weren't doing what you were doing, you could be an actress for sure. I'm just telling you. With your chart, you could have been an actress. You could have been like in theater, because there's a natural charm and there's a natural ability to adapt into any environment and to get along with any type of person, like a chameleon. That's at
Okay,
Scorpio Moon, Gemini Rising.
makes sense. Okay.
And then the Aries Sun, of course, you're always meant to be at the head of the line, a teacher, a leader, etc. So you have a really cool chart. I really, really like your chart.
Thank you. I've been told that before, that it's very
Yeah.
versatile. There's a lot
It's
of,
very versatile. It does have, I mean, it does have some tough spots though. That Pluto conjunct Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is rough. It can be rough, but it's also that it becomes your knowledge and your wisdom base to teach the world ultimately. And it's opposite Mercury, so corroborates that as well. Also, Mercury in Taurus, I would imagine you like fashion and you like aesthetics and art and right, yeah, you like things to look nice, right? Yeah. And that's
yeah,
Pleiadian. Every Pleiadian starseed I've ever known, they like the aesthetic side of things because that's Taurus. The Pleiades is in Taurus.
yeah, of course, of course. And I would feel like, I mean, I don't know, but from the way that I feel, that Pluto, Black Moon, Lilith, like those intense traumatic events, I feel like they done for this lifetime. I feel
Oh
like
yeah, I would imagine so as well. Because and that's the thing with the chart is like people ask me that a lot. Is like, oh my god, I've got Pluto fucking squaring Saturn. Like, am I just fucked for my whole life? Am I just screwed? It's like no. What happens is you keep like every year of our life we take a trip around our chart, right? So every time we take a trip around our chart, we have a new opportunity to interact differently with our planets, right? And as you overcome your karma, as you overcome the lessons or advance through the lessons your soul planned for you, your relationship with the planets changes. Your relationship with Pluto or Saturn will be less of like the tower card and it'll be more about wisdom. It'll be that lightning bolt part of the tower card. It'll turn into the essence of what you're sharing as far as the codes that you end up sharing with others. So I would agree. I think you're probably done with the karmic part of that. Altea, where can people find all of your information, your retreats, your content, your everything?
yeah, sure. So just from my website, which is Altea Lucrezia, or you can find me on Instagram, which is Light Codes by ALA, and then from there go onto my link tree. I offer 6-week programs, 6-month programs. I've got about 20 different workshops that you can download on
Cool.
releasing attachments, the third eye. I've got a channeling masterclass.
You offered to do a light language activation for our audience, which I'm really grateful for. I've never experienced one from you. I'm excited for what this is going to be like. I have no idea what to expect. I guess just give us a primer of what to expect or how to receive it.
You can just stay in a space of openness. Don't try to understand. Listen with your heart and not with your mind, and just surrender and allow. I will explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and I will debrief at the end as well, just so you guys are aware. So you can just start by closing your eyes and anchoring into your body. As you find your comfortable breathing rhythm, with every inhale, you breathe in light. And with every exhale, you let go of all that doesn't serve you anymore. As you relax your body, relax your system, relax your energy field, stay in a space of openness, in a space of oneness. As we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above and Soundophone to seal the grid from below. So we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, and anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good. You're welcome in the space. Opening, 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 opening systems. Raya se okukoro ishara taka. Takara kre atreo kumarase sorokoro ishara. Opening, opening, opening. Opening, 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 attuning, calling in divine rays, anchoring, 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 anchoring more light into systems, opening, 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 clean, releasing, 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 letting go, releasing, letting go, 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 removing, removing, decording, detangling. Detangling, detangling, attuning, attuning, attuning. Rahaisha sasusoso koratrietaka. Takriete kumrasik, umrasik, umaresit, umaishirayata. Tiena re ake okora iaishira iasiar. Expanding, expanding, expanding. More light, divine rays. Anchoring, 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 anchoring. Platinum white light coming in, attuning, attuning, attuning. Attuning systems, expanding, 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 expanding codes of knowledge coming in, anchoring, 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 activating, activating, activating DNA, activating, activating memories, expanding, expanding into more light. Tuning, tuning, tuning. Attuning peripheral. Haisha sesa saratitaka. Tre akiro kukumai sesaro ko tre achira siratata. Releasing, 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 letting go, letting go, letting go. Letting go, letting go, letting go of all that doesn't serve you anymore. Clearing, releasing, releasing, decording, detangling, detangling, removing, 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 opening, 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 clearing all the emotions, clearing shame, clearing guilt. Yara to raya sieta kara ia ishetaka. Tiata kre aseo koko ia shenata kri aishero sorok ishetaka. Expanding, 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 expanding. Green rays, aurora rays, rainbow rays coming in, anchoring into the heart, expanding, expanding more light. Yara tia shetakra. Trea quieto kuaye shena siesa sa kre okoro trietaka kare shir codes of self-love, self-trust, anchoring, 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 grounding, 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 attuning, 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 integrating, 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 integrating. Expanding, 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 expanding the throat, expanding, 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 expanding. Raya shia 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 sare. It is time now to open and expand, 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 more light, more rays. Rasieta quieto kumaisia. Tia iashera trikt kare atek uma iasie. Shiarachia sietaka. Tia kare aishe soroko kakriatera iasheto konaitia. Tiana rea akiero otera ia sieta karaise codes of knowledge, anchoring, 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 attuning, 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 rahisha sasayetaka. Tiara tre atie to kumaya shira sara. Tre atreya tera okora I atera ia shie sahia ishira yataka. Triatik akoro kot karai sinaya shira takratre okumai sira isira itokoro ishia. Urai shira setik oro closing ceiling closing ceiling closing ceiling 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 closing ceiling closing ceiling closing kiatik umai shira sa grounding 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 anchoring grounding anchoring anchoring anchoring. Anchoring, anchoring, peripheral, tuning, 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 yatoku aishira isa yataka. Triatik arokoko ishetaka, chira isa isheta, ia ishetuku aishenayata. Triatre atek uma ia se ura ishira yatara. Shu, shu, shu. Ishu aisiate araia ishi esietaka. Riatek iatek oko ishetaka. Shu, shu, shu. Okay. You can gently ground back into the body and come back into your physical vessel. And in your own time, wherever you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the present moment. How are you feeling?
Wow, that was amazing. Yeah, I feel good. Well, there was a lot there, and you work really quickly. That was like, I think what stood out so much to me, everything was like that. And I think at first, like, I felt the first part of it, I was feeling just like root chakra stuff, shit that because as I shared with you prior, like, my root chakra has always been the most troubled one by far, like fear and just ungroundedness. And I felt a lot of old root chakra shit just clearing away. And then I felt just a lot of lightness and a lot of expansion and just the colors, the rainbow colors coming into my auric field. And then every time you'd say, okay, grounding, 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 I'd start to feel more back in and grounded. And it was a really cool experience. And I'm excited to see how I feel the rest of the day and in the days to come. And I want, let us know in the comment section, please, what was your experience of that? What are you feeling right now? And yeah, let us know if you enjoyed that. And thank you so much, Altea, for doing that for us.
Yeah, so a few days for integration can
Yeah,
happen. So sometimes you might feel like, you get triggered more easily, or like you need to sleep more, eat more. You
sure.
might have like whistling or popping or things like that. Just like be mindful and aware that the systems are recalibrating. So yeah, even for
Yeah.
everyone who's guys, like
And
you might.
as you shared it, it integrates exactly as it's meant to on its own time. It'll be different for every person, and when it's meant to integrate and how it will, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that with myself and our audience, and I feel very blessed to have received that. Um, Actually, I got to share when I first met you at Conscious Life, I just really felt you had a really nice vibration, and I felt really grounded and just kind of happy after leaving your presence, just meeting you for the first time. So I just feel like you carry those codes of like grounding and joy around.
Thank you. Yeah, and we met even before the expo started. You were literally like one of the first people I met when I
I
got on
know,
Earth.
with your cameraman. Anytime there's a camera, I'm like a fly to a bug zapper. I'm like, where's the camera? That's my Leo ascendant. So that's what happened. And the red hair, just shiny objects. Oh my God, amazing, Altia. This is awesome. Check out all of Altia's links below, and just really, she has such amazing tools for our ascension and her light language activations and her workshops and her teachings and everything. And she's the real deal, and that's why I was so grateful to have her on this show today. So let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you everyone for watching. And until next time, namaste. Thank you.